So today I'm going to talk about healing the heart chakra for people who have been stuck in unhealthy empathy. Unhealthy empathy is getting swept up by your environment, being a victim to your environment, getting hooked by your environment, getting hooked by your own emotional body, and therefore being stuck in the past or being stuck in an emotional addiction, and therefore losing the ability to move forward in life, which is what our healthy male energy does for us. So I'm going to talk about what I've noticed are some of the woundings in the heart chakra that lead to this imbalance and how to correct them. So I'm going to start with compassion for ourselves. It can be, or I noticed that people who fall under this category, who feel behind in life, who feel maybe they've spent a lot of time doing healing work, maybe they've had a Kundalini awakening, maybe they haven't yet figured out how to be financially sovereign, or they're always comparing themselves to the physical lives of other people. And so I just want to pause and say, remember, we are not a body, right? If I thought I was a body and I live and die, then of course the only thing that I could measure my worth with is what I experience in the body, right? The pleasures that I get, the achievements, the way that I'm validated. But remember, we're a soul, we're eternal, we're here for the long game. And so, becoming more compassionate, self-compassionate, more unlimited, like that's really, that's like long game achievements. So remember that. But people tend to compare themselves to people who appear to be further along in life, and then they become severely judgmental, and in fact, they have an internalized narcissist. If you attract narcissistic people in your life, you have an internalized narcissist, meaning there's a part of you that is severely cruel to other parts of you. And so it's essential that we have compassion for every part of ourselves. The part of ourselves that hasn't figured out how to become financially sovereign. The part of us that hasn't figured out how to heal whatever maybe chronic health condition that we have. The part of us that maybe has or had in the past an addiction. Whenever you catch yourself referring to an aspect of you or a past version of you in a hateful or judgmental way, I want you to pause and replace that with the feeling of love. Just feel your heart. That's all you have to do, because it's a choice you're making to say, no, I love that part of myself. I love everyone I've been, everywhere I've been, everything I am, everything that's brought me here. Like, I have love for that aspect of me. And really, what are the other options? You either judge it or you love it. And loving it doesn't mean you pretend to like it. Loving it means you have compassion for yourself, because we've always been doing the best that we possibly can. So that's first and foremost, because I noticed that individuals that fall under this category can be incredibly critical of themselves. So of course, then we have forgiveness, which forgiveness, like in its truest sense, is a realization of oneness, meaning everything that's ever happened to you, everything you've ever done was the divine doing itself, right, to wake itself up. So in other words, you've always done the best you possibly could. People are always doing the best they possibly can. The things that you've chosen for yourself were the best choices you had access to at that time. And so, right, we have to realize that life could not have been any other way. And so, but also to acknowledge that life is not an attack. Life is a movement of love, no matter how ugly it gets, to wake up the light within us. And Viktor Frankl might be one of the best examples of that. And Jesus, like Viktor Frankl being stuck in a concentration camp in the Holocaust, somehow finding the light within him. And by the way, remember, when we remember that we're eternal beings, that accomplishment that he did, even if he had not escaped or gotten set free and developed the body of work that he did, that accomplishment is like nuclear. It's a nuclear accomplishment, right? On the soul level, the realization of who I really am, no matter what's going on in my life. But that doesn't mean that we can bypass the pain of betrayal and the pain of things. And again, that's where we have to accept the fact of pain. So if you've been betrayed, then feel that completely. It's like cracking a walnut, okay? It's like everything that hurts the most is God trying to crack the shells of the walnut to reveal the light inside of you. So we want to go into those feelings consciously, go into the pain, let yourself shake on the floor, become overpowered by the pain, almost like give into it, crucify yourself to it, let it move through you so that it can do what it's supposed to do, which is to move through you, right, to reveal the light within you. So now I want to talk about martyrdom, which is something that a lot of people, unhealthy empaths, fall into. And martyrdom is a kind of archetype, and there's sub-archetypes like the helper, the healer, the mother, the guide. Not that being a healer or a mother or a guide is inherently a shadow archetype, but often it is. And I'm going to tell you what it's really covering up and what the real problem is, because martyrdom is a symptom of the problem. So the problem are really that we're, again, avoiding pain, and we're avoiding certain fears. So we're avoiding the fear of abandonment. That's a big one for the unhealed empath, because again, we might not have figured out, we might not have the self-belief and the self-worth, and we might not feel capable of creating in this physical world. So we might believe that we're not just it's not about being abandoned by human beings even. It's about being abandoned by life. And it could be about being abandoned by human beings. Maybe your parents did abandon you in your childhood in some way, but there's a deeper abandonment wound, which is feeling that you've been forsaken by God, by life, that you're being left behind. And so then you desperately stay attached to things that you may know very well don't suit you or aren't right for you, because if you were on your own, like, you'd for sure get left behind. So the unstable or unhealthy empath can desperately connect to things that aren't healthy for you. And so that's why part of the healing is to have the divine will to disconnect, which I talk about in the third chakra. But that fear of abandonment, the way you heal the fear of abandonment is to realize, like, in the moment that you're feeling abandoned, okay, so let's say you're in a relationship with someone, they go on a trip, and maybe they don't text you as much as you want them to text you, and so you start feeling worried and abandoned. And so I want you to pause in the moment that you're feeling that fear, and I want you to ask, what are you believing about yourself or about life? Because guess what? The fear of abandonment oftentimes is not about the person. Maybe in that moment, when you're having the reaction, you're actually believing, wow, that person has opportunities and gets to go places, and again, I'm going to be left behind. They're going to leave me, and so I'm going to be left behind. It's about feeling that you're left behind, because also it's connected to these ideas that you don't have what it takes, that you're not a creator, that you don't have the self-belief to trust that whatever desires you have can be manifested through you. And so we can feel quite disoriented and quite chaotic, right? And quite volatile when we're in this fear of abandonment and we're not able to feel it. So we have to be able to feel the amplitude of how intense that fear is, and to walk into it consciously and to inquire, like, what am I believing? And when you get the answer, you just realize that it's a lie. Of course I'm not forsaken by life. I'm not left behind. I'm not left behind. Now that I see that I was believing that, and I no longer have to believe that, right? The lie has been dismantled. And we can spend so much energy avoiding just pausing, feeling the pain, and inquiring. We can desperately hold on. We can desperately try to be loved. We can desperately try to understand the person more so that they never leave us. But we're not addressing the actual problem, which is that we have a belief that's vibrating in our consciousness that causes all kinds of chaos and volatility and keeps us small. So underneath martyrdom is also a fear of purposelessness, which is kind of similar, which is like, okay, if you haven't figured out certain things, if you haven't figured out how to succeed in the physical world, to be financially sovereign, to create what from your soul, a life that is aligned for you and that supports you financially or physically, if you haven't figured that out and you don't believe that it's possible, then because you don't believe you have a purpose, and maybe you genuinely don't feel interested in what other people feel interested in, like hustling, like competing, all that kind of stuff. So you jump into a martyr archetype because it gives you a career, right? It gives you a career to be the understanding one, to be overly concerned with everyone in your life, to study all of their charts and to understand them so deeply, right? It's giving you a reason for living, because what we're avoiding is the pain that we believe that we don't have. There isn't a reason for our life. God won't use me. There's no reason for my existence, right? That's the belief. That's the real problem. It's not the martyrdom. It's not the fixer. It's not the helper. It's why do I jump into that archetype to begin with? Oh, because I genuinely believe that there's no reason for my existence. That's nonsense. Again, once you make contact with the lie, you can see it for what it is. It's just a belief. And beliefs are powerful and they create reality. So the most powerful way to change your belief is to, in the moment of a trigger, to follow it back to its source. You can do automatic writing, you can do a method, you can sit down and journal, but really the most potent way, but it requires like a lot of energy and it requires a lot of like one-pointedness. When you're triggered, when you're feeling a fear like this and you say, wait a minute, ooh, I go back to the source of this fear. The source is, I don't believe that my life has any meaning or that there's any reason for me to be here. That's just a lie, okay? And that's what we avoid. We avoid that lie and that pain by jumping into martyr roles. So we also fear inadequacy, again, which is tied to what I talked to in the third chakra, which is like, okay, I don't have the self-belief, I don't trust myself, and I don't believe that I'm a creator. And so I need to connect myself to people who are creators, but then I'll fulfill the role of the guide or the helper or the nourishing support system because I don't believe that I can create in any other way. And by the way, being a nourishing support system is absolutely being a creator, but there's a difference between doing that consciously and jumping into that role because you're avoiding a deeper pain and a deeper fear. So, right, and the pain of inadequacy in the heart is different than inadequacy in the solar plexus. It's heavier. It's more of like a grief-like feeling. It's like this sadness that like, oh my God, like I just don't belong here and I just haven't figured out how to do this thing. And it's like this grief. It's like this heavy, almost archetypal grief. Archetypal meaning like, feels like you've carried it for lifetimes. It's just this heaviness that sits there. And we avoid the heaviness by getting involved in chaos, involved in drama, staying involved in toxic relationships, which are not actually toxic. Everything's a learning experience, but we want to be in the war in whatever form that takes, even arguing with people in our lives, arguing with our parents, arguing with our partner, arguing in our head with people, because that fiery moving energy distracts us from pain. Again, it's all about being distracted from pain. What creates volatility in your life is that you avoid pain, period. And there's these different pains and these different fears that we're naming right now. So inadequacy, right? To embody that, to heal inadequacy, to embody self-love, it's what I said first. It's like to say, to have reverence for your life, like everything that has happened, every twist and turn along my journey, every version of myself that came before me, I honor that. I honor that with reverence and love. That's the embodiment of self-worth. It's like, I refuse to hate myself. I refuse to put myself down. I refuse to question my value. I refuse to deceive myself and tell myself that I have no value. It's just a choice to stop deceiving yourself. That's a very heavy self-deception, to believe that you have no value. So to heal inadequacy, which is also a little bit tied to the fear of failure, which I'm going to mention too, but to heal inadequacy, just refuse to judge yourself. Refuse. When you catch yourself doing it, when you catch yourself putting yourself down, devaluing yourself, stop. Stop. And feel your heart instead. So the fear of failure is another thing that's related to all this fear. It's like, well, I could distract myself with being concerned with my partner, understanding the people in my life, understanding my friends, right? You could have like, a handful of friends that is each going through something difficult, and you're putting a lot of effort into being there for them and to understanding them, which is really, it's great to do that. However, you always have to question, am I avoiding something? If I'm overly concerned with other, which I've noticed about empaths, when I talk to them, they almost refer to the other, the partner, the mother, the uncle, whatever. They refer to the other almost as much as they say the word I, because their identity is so much about who's in their life, which is why to rebalance their energy, we have to narcissate. We have to remember, what are my desires? Where do I want to live? How do I want to spend my money? Right? That's like, narcissiting is how we heal this, being diffused and lost in the environment. So another fear that we could be avoiding, again, is failure, which is like, okay, if I don't feel like I have what it takes to do this life, I'll consume myself and others, and then I won't even try anything. Oh, that's another big self-deception. If I'm not perfect, there's no use in even trying. If I can't, I have certain desires in my heart that I won't talk about in detail, but I used to tell myself, if I'm not at that level where I can bring through something like that, like the thing that I want to create, then there's no point in sharing anything, which is a huge self-deception. Oh no. That is one of the most hurtful beliefs that you can have. If you want to share something, if you want to share, teach, start a YouTube channel, take singing lessons, just go for it. Just do it. Don't think about it. Just start. Like, there is a lot of wisdom to that, because we could theoretically keep ourselves frozen and inanimate for lifetimes if we give in to doubts, if we give in to ideas that, like, if I'm not perfect now, right, if I can't show up like this person that I respect or at this level, then there's no point of me doing anything. There's no point in starting anywhere. Please scan your consciousness for that and see that it's a lie. So we're also avoiding the fear of death, which a lot of empaths, they get, especially ones that have had health issues, they get consumed with, their attention gets consumed with the symptoms they feel in the body. Oh my God, like, what's that sensation? Oh my God, like, what's that? Oh my God, I'm dying. And trust me, I get this because I had cancer and I had a Kundalini awakening, which amplifies all your sensations. So, oh man, when energy moves through a chakra, it can be quite disturbing and uncomfortable. And I have been rigorously trained to be at peace with what I feel. But I get it, like, but also always feeling like you're gonna die, again, could be a smokescreen from deeper things, like the fear of failure. People think, oh, the fear of death is like the deepest fear. Look, if you want to overcome the fear of death, you just accept it. If you feel worried about your health, to dismantle that fear, like, in an instant, you say, you know what? If I have cancer again, so be it. If you're gonna take me out, so be it. I've had to do that so many times with Kundalini. Oh, I'm having like insane heart palpitations or sensations in my head area. Okay, take me out, because I'm so sick of worrying. I'm so effing sick of being preoccupied by this. Just freaking take me already, if that's what you want. Oh, that's such a powerful way to overcome death. You're on the turbulent airplane. You know what? Ugh, whatever. If it's gonna crash, it's gonna crash. Like, it sounds kind of weird, but I'm telling you, I've done it so many times and it works for me. So, but when we get really consumed with these things, oftentimes we're avoiding deeper things like grief, like self-hatred, like lack of self-belief, all these movements, these worries, these being frenetic. That's all a smokescreen from deeper pain. And so one thing that's really important to fire and wire in your consciousness is the belief that you are a creator and that you can receive what you desire. Believing that you cannot receive what you desire is like, imagine your chakra system being a river, a raging river. If you don't believe that you can receive what you desire, it's like having a dam in a nuclear river. It's like having a dam in a nuclear river. If I believe I don't deserve, like for example, for me, my definition of relationship that I truly desire is a physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual connection and shared purpose. That's like my truth. That's my clear truth. If someone's in my life who doesn't meet one of those things, like truly they don't, there's just an incompatibility there. If I try to make that work, I am going to short circuit. I'm damming my river. That's why in the moment where you realize like, wait, this doesn't align with my core values, you can't betray yourself and try to make something work that doesn't work. You have to have the courage, because it requires courage, because sometimes that means walking away when there's nothing to take its place, which is hard for an empath, which is so used to being identified with what they're connected to and having their worth based on what they're connected to. Because if I took away everything that I'm connected to and everyone that I'm connected to, what am I worth? If I'm not helping anyone, if I'm not fixing, if I'm not nurturing, what am I worth? Your worth is your existence, your self-evident radiance. That's your worth, and God will use you for something. I promise you. If you don't know what your purpose is, don't worry about it at all. Just follow the threads that you have access to now, right? If it's the singing lesson you want to do, if it's going on this little trip, if it's something that keeps knocking on your door that doesn't be quiet, like that's your soul trying to pull you into another timeline. Go for those things. So we need to believe that we deserve and that we can receive what we desire. Okay, just anchor that belief in your consciousness. Whatever I truly desire is God's desire. Let me get clear on it. Just like my clarity about relationship, let me get clear on what's important to me, and I'm going to not betray that clarity. Okay, that clears the heart chakra. So finally, what I'm going to say is, again, about grief. Like, we avoid grief like the plague because our mind thinks that it's going to last forever. My God, if I give into this grief, like, I'm going to fall into like a hell realm of misery and never get out. No. Grief can be one of the most beautiful, I'm not trying to glamorize it or romanticize it, but like making contact with grief, whether it was triggered by a life situation, losing a parent, a sexual assault, being in a war zone, your own choices that you've made over and over to accept abuse in your life, like there might be some really intense grief there. And the way that you release it is that you want to, not to fix it or get rid of it, but you want to make contact with it so that you can finally free yourself. Because if you don't free yourself, what happens is we create chaos and volatility and all the things on top of it, like to avoid it. So you decide that you're done avoiding it, and use water, a bathtub, music. Music is particularly helpful for grief because we need tenderness to be able to touch something like grief consciously, tenderness, a lot of tenderness, not just stillness, it's like a lot of tenderness. So I recommend Chantress Seba, CHANTRESS /SEBA. There's a song called Finding Peace that's really, really powerful to help you release grief. And the last thing I'll say is that I believe that the most powerful spiritual practice is to just feel your heart. As you're waking up, feel your heart. If you want to add gratitude, but just feel your heart. Breathe into it, give it attention, exhale from it. When you're walking, when you're driving, like as much as you can possibly remember, feel your heart. That's the best spiritual practice in the world. Because, you know, people that are like interested in other dimensions and astral travel, like that's all good. But let me tell you something, like everything is here and now. When you live in your heart, like life becomes mystical. Like the eyes of the heart see things, see the oneness, see the magic and the beauty and the electronic particles and who knows what you personally will see when you arrive, when you rest in your heart. But trying to awaken upper chakra stuff without opening your heart and without doing shadow work and you know, integrating all these parts of yourself that you've exiled can cause a lot of serious issues. It can be potentially a disaster. And so the number one practice that I recommend to people is to feel your heart, because the more attention you give it, the more it can help you transform these energies that are stuck in your lower chakras. And what we truly want is to rest as love. That's what we really want, more so than anything or any other desire. But you have to remember to actually put your attention on it. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope you have a beautiful day.